your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record, whether you're here in the Cayman Islands or if you're listening to us via the web overseas. Of course, For the Record is a show produced by Radio Cayman and its staff. And its management, and it started in May of this year. How time flies! It feels like it's my first show, actually. But it was started in May, and it is designed specifically to keep you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and the international scene. I am your host, Orit Connor. And you can join me For the Record on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 7:30 until 9:30. And just let me make a point there. This Friday, of course, being Boxing Day, we, of course, will not be on the air, but we will certainly be back on Monday, the following Monday. So you can always join me normally on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Our phone lines are always open. There's always someone waiting to take your call. We try our utmost not to keep you waiting long when you call in, because we always emphasize that this is your radio show. This is your radio talk show. It is for you to give input, to ask questions, to seek answers to whatever may be on your mind or maybe affecting you. So there is always someone there waiting to take your calls. And if you don't want to talk on the telephone, sometimes you may even relay the information via that lady with the beautiful voice, Miss Susan Watson, who is always there to answer your calls. And of course, you can reach us on our toll-free number, which is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. And you can also email us at fortherecord, that's one word, fortherecord, at candw.ky. This, of course, I need not tell you, it's the holiday season, the Christmas season, when we celebrate the birth of Christ. And we will be talking somewhat about Christmas. But I also want to remind you that For the Record, we say that it is designed to keep you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. And that will be the main focus of our discussions here on For the Record. And we don't want to sound like the Christmas Grinch, where we don't want to talk Christmas. And we, like I said, we will be talking Christmas, but we will not lose our focus on what's happening around us. Let's first go to the headlines. Caymanian Compass, Premier shuffles cabinet duties. Similar article on Cayman News Service as well, where Premier Alden McLaughlin has swapped his community affairs ministry with his cabinet colleagues' health portfolio. So basically what happens now is that Minister Bawden now gets culture, he gets youth. Bear with me. He no longer has the health ministry. He will no longer have that, and he will no longer have culture. Those two subjects will move over to the Premier's office. Now, we saw in the editorial, the board editorial of the Caymanian Compass last week, the calls for his Minister Bawden's resignation, for his removal. That did not happen, and I don't think that many people expected it to happen. Whether or not there will be repercussions from this decision made by the Premier, that's another story, and I would imagine that the Premier will say that's a bridge that we'll cross when we get to it, but it is certainly within the Premier's remit to make his decision as to the ministers, the persons that he wants in his cabinet to perform ministerial duties, and that decision, was taken. I'd also like to read what has been shared with us by one of our listeners, and she wrote to the editorial board at the Caymanian Compass, and she says, "I wish to advise that you and your team incorrectly made the assumption that in speaking about the case of gross mistreatment that Mrs. Ahern is a professional colleague, quote unquote professional colleague of the minister. In actual fact, Minister Bodden is the country's political representative in the Ministry of Health. Mrs. Ahern is not his professional colleague. She is there as the country's government chief officer." And she also said to them that she would also forward this correspondence on to me on For the Record, as she noted that I referred to the Caymanian Compass's constitution, referred the Caymanian Compass to the Constitution on another matter this morning, and that had to do, and that when I'm saying this morning, that was last week. And what that basically had to do with is pointing out to the Caymanian Compass that the governor individually could not remove a minister. That could only be done under seal after receiving that advice, under the public seal after receiving that advice from the Premier. So it's the Premier's decision as to who he wants to keep in his cabinet, and that person can only be removed by the governor if the Premier advises her that should be done. We have one caller online, but before we get to that caller, just want to wrap up all of the housekeeping stuff as well. 1 year later, tire fire threat remains at the landfill, and there's a photo here of, I would say, thousands and thousands of tires. We hope that that situation is resolved. At one point in time, there was an indication that there were at least 2 bidders who were bidding for the tires. It would appear to me, and my view on this is that if government has to give them a way to get rid of them, then maybe they should just simply go ahead and do that, and that problem would be solved. Flashback in the Caymanian Compass. PR application stalled 14 months after making significant changes to the immigration laws. The government still has not published regulations that define priority occupations for which an applicant can receive as many as 30 of the required 110 points needed to have permanent residence granted. Since the amended law came into effect on October 23, 2013, no new applications for permanent residence have been heard. Situation in immigration needs to be resolved. It needs to be resolved permanently. We need to get the immigration department up and fully functioning to capacity. Dark negotiations at standstill. That's what the Compass says when we talk to the Premier. The Premier indicates that talks are ongoing and that they expect a resolution and an agreement with the DART Corporation fairly soon as well. Looking at the weekend ahead, Lions deliver gifts. This is an annual thing that the Lions Club of Grand Cayman does during the Christmas season, and I'm sure that those recipients, the recipients of those gifts, are extremely appreciative. This usually takes place on Christmas morning, so you have Lion members who forego spending the morning with their families, especially those who have young kids. You know how excited those young kids are in terms of wanting to open up those gifts, and they, adults take their time and unfold the gifts and make sure that the scotch tape that is on there, you pull that off because we want to reuse the paper. Those kids just grab and tear and pull. So therefore, going all of that, those who have kids to do this, and again, it's a extremely noble venture, and we all know what the Lions do within the community as well. Rotary Christmas Lunch, Rotary Club of Grand Cayman, Cayman's Christmas lunch for seniors will take place in the First Baptist Hall from 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. on Boxing Day. That is on the day after Christmas, which would be on Friday. And for those of you who are listening overseas and are Americans, the day after Christmas we have something called Boxing Day, and one of these days I will give you the explanation, hopefully before the holiday season is over, of what Boxing Day means. There are various versions of what Boxing Day is about, how it started, and if those of you who are listening want to chime in on that, certainly please feel free to do so. So the annual event will include food, music, dancing, and readings. When my parents were alive, I had the privilege of taking them to that, the Rotary Lunch. This has been going on for I don't know how many years, but many, many, many years. And they enjoyed it extremely. It was an opportunity for them to see old friends when they normally don't get the opportunity to see them. Most people in Cayman say the only time you see friends is if you go to the hospital or if you go to a funeral, and used to be when you go to a wedding as well. Weddings are not as popular as they used to be. Yeah. So again, the Rotary Club of Grand Cayman will be doing their annual luncheon for seniors. Sad story, Captain Marvin, tourism pioneer, dies at age of 98. He had a good run, 98. If I knew that I was going to live until I reached 98, there were probably many daring things that I would do in the meantime, knowing that I would continue to survive. But our heartfelt sympathies go out to the family of Captain Marvin, and I can only say to you that cherish the memories. That's what you have that you can go by. Folks, those of you who are listening, I don't want you to forget that For the Record is brought to you and to me by Sea Grape Secretarial Services. Sea Grape Secretarial Services are located at Unit Number 2, Grand Plaza, Howard Street, Georgetown. Sea Grape Secretarial Services provides quality, professional, and affordable service, and such quality, professional, and affordable service is guaranteed. At Sea Grape Secretarial Services, there is no job too small for them to do so. Certainly get in contact with Sea Grape Secretarial Services if you need their services, and they are our sponsors on Mondays. Sea Grape Secretarial Services. We have one caller online, but before we take that caller, we're going to ask the caller to be extremely patient with us. I know you're an early bird, first to get on board, but please be extremely patient. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we will be back shortly. Please stay tuned. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Orrit Connor. We say that this is I've told you, and I don't really have to tell you, you know that this is the holiday season, the Christmas season, when we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. Because of the birth of Jesus Christ and other things, we have so many things in life to be thankful for. Life itself, and the fact that we're here and we're able to celebrate Christmas. For the Record, of course, deals with many issues, political as well as social, And this morning we have in the studio with us members of a group, an organization that does extremely valuable service to the Cayman Islands. It takes courage and conviction for some people to talk about certain issues, and these persons who are with me this morning, have the courage of their convictions and the courage to talk about, what they're involved in. What I am talking about is I'm talking about the Hope Foundation, and I have with me the operations manager of the Hope Foundation, Mr. Brent Hides. We also have Mr. Wayne Dilbert, who is the newest resident of the Hope Foundation, and we also have Mr. Keith Orett, who is a former member.
Present.
He's also a present member of the Hope Foundation. Now, for Mr. Orett, the tide is sort of like turned this morning because he's usually on the other end of the telephone and on the radio calling into us, but we have him in the studio with us this morning. You've heard him talk on the radio before, has very pertinent questions, doesn't have a lot to say. He'll present his questions to you, give you an opportunity to respond to them. He's not as long-winded, let's say, as I am, who goes on talking, but extremely pertinent questions that he has raises whenever he calls on the talk show as well. But I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brent Hides now, who, like I said, is the operations manager of the Hope Foundation. And before we do that, though, Brent, sorry, I almost forgot our caller. How can I do that? And I keep telling you that this is your talk show, and I almost forgot. You caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, Oche.
Good morning. How are you?
Okay, this is Jimmy.
Hey, Jimmy, how are you doing?
Thankful in you, man.
I'm good. I'm good, thanks.
It's not hard to forget me, OC, man. I'm easy to forget. Trust me.
No. What do you have to tell us this morning, Jimmy?
Yeah, I got something good, man. First of all, I want to congratulate you there this morning with your show.
Mm-hmm.
The group you have there, that's a good group. I'm sure they'll come up with something good. I'm going to wish each and every person listening here and worldwide a very Merry Christmas. Happy, healthy, prosperous, and spiritual New Year when it comes. Okay, I have a suggestion to make. It's not concerning the Hope Foundation, but it's a suggestion that's necessary for me to make. Very necessary.
Sure.
Okay, speaking of Captain Marvin. Captain Marvin was a very dedicated gentleman to the Cayman Islands, especially the hotel, the tourism association. He's no longer with us. They've done a lot of good to the island. I'm sure he's up there with any of them folks that can be classed as supportive of the country. I personally think that his value to the Cayman Islands and the tourism associations and whatever it may be, he reserves the right to have an ambassador's funeral, nothing less than an ambassador for a country, regardless whether it be in government or out government. That is the type of funeral that he deserves to have. I'm thinking that everybody should be proud of that work that man has performed. He done it like eating breakfast, dinner, and supper.
Okay, well, I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure if they're, about an ambassador's funeral, but I know what you're talking about. It should be almost like a state funeral, and I hope that the powers that be are listening. He certainly should be given a prominent send off. At his burial. And like you said, he's a pioneer in the industry. Um, and so, yeah, certainly that is a point well taken. And we hope that everyone or someone who is influential enough we'll take this on. Caller, I want to thank you for that call. We're going to go off now to Brent. Sorry about that just now, Brent, but I almost forgot Jimmy. And I didn't know it was Jimmy on the line, but whether or not I knew it, I wouldn't have kept our callers waiting so long. But Mr. Brent Hydes, the operations manager of the Hope Foundation. Tell our listeners about the Hope Foundation.
Morning, the Cayman Islands at large, and I just want to enlighten you of the Hope Foundation Halfway House program. The Hope Foundation operates 2 halfway houses to assist those that are struggling in the community with drug and alcohol addiction. We provide a clean, safe environment that is structured. Our program is completely based on a 12-step base recovery program. What are the 12 steps? The 12 steps are a format for living, how to restructure your life and actually take an internal look at some of the issues that us as human beings face on a daily basis. Sometimes in drug addiction, those defects of character and all of that stuff keep us stuck. So the 12 steps of recovery is a format for changing lives, and we continue to encourage and support those that are willing to take the necessary steps to become productive members of the community.
Okay, and your intake, does it come from these people? Persons come in voluntarily, or do you have an intake from any other organization? Let's say, like for instance,
we work with all entities of government that focus on rehabilitation and the prevention of crime. That's the drug court, probation and rehabilitation, the court as a large, not necessarily the drug court, the prison, the counseling center. All the entities of government that continue to focus on rehabilitation and prevention of crime. We work with all these people. Most of our residents will come from probation and rehabilitation office or the drug court. Particularly Mr. Dilbert's case, he was sent to us by the courts. So through the courts, engaging and endorsing this facility, we're able to get residents to come to the halfway house to work their recovery in a healthy, clean, safe environment that are structured and designed for changing lives.
Okay, great. Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Orit Connor, and my guest in the studio with me this morning, we have Mr. Brent Hydes, who is the operations manager of the Hope Foundation. We have Mr. Wayne Dilbert, who is a newest resident at the Hope Foundation, and we have Mr. Keith Orit, who is also a resident at the Hope Foundation. When we return, we will be talking a lot more about the Hope Foundation. We ask you to join us, call in if you have any questions, any observations in relation to the Hope Foundation. Meanwhile, we're going to go to a time check, then we're going to the news. We ask you to stay tuned to 89.9 FM For the Record, as we will be back shortly. Morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Orit Connor, and my guest in the studio with me this morning, I have members of the Hope Foundation. We have Mr. Brent Hydes, the operations manager, and we have residents, Mr. Wayne Dilbert and Mr. Keith Orit. And we haven't had an opportunity yet to speak to Mr. Orit and Mr. Dilbert. So, Mr. Orit, good morning and welcome to For the Record, and welcome to being on the other side of the mic For the Record.
Yes, good morning, Mr. O'Connor, and good morning to the listening public. And first of all, I'd like to say my condolences go out to Captain Marvin's family, and I'm sure that his soul was in the right place during his passing. I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I hope that everyone will be safe during those times.
Okay.
Well, I am now a resident at the Hope for Today Foundation in West Bay. And the Hope Foundation has helped me in my life by providing an environment that was helping me to stay away from people, places, and things, which was a problem for me during my life when I was trying to stop on my own. There were a few times that I would go a few days, a few weeks, and I would continue to relapse.
Mm-hmm. You had the desire to change, but the challenges were more than you personally could handle.
Yes. And my life during my time of addiction of drinking alcohol and smoking weed was really my addiction. And during those times, when I first started out, I didn't realize the serious consequences of continuing to do those things. Always, when I first started, I started doing it on the weekends, Fridays and Saturdays. And I said, well, I have pretty much control over this. This is not a problem for me. But that continued to go into Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and sometimes even into Sundays. So it became a daily problem for me. And by that happening, then it started to take effect of my mind, and it started to affect my body negatively, seriously, and that I wasn't able to function the way that I needed to as a normal human being. And it made my life unstable. My life started to feel hopeless, unmanageable, and it started to put fear in me of doing simple things such as normal people do, such as going to the supermarket and shopping. That was a great fear of mine because of how it affected my mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even simple things as answering my phone became a fear of me, also for me, because of the people I've let down, and then sometimes not wanting to speak to people on the phone because of my state of mind, mostly in depression. And simple things such as catching the bus was a great fear of mine. Just standing and waiting on the bus became a great fear. And going to work became a serious problem. That also became a fear in my life, which normal people do. And during my time of work, I would be struggling with hangovers. And at the same time I would be struggling with hangovers, I would be struggling with the urge. So I was battling those two things.
And that urge was to have alcohol or to have other drugs.
Yes. And it was like I wasn't focused actually on the things I was doing at work the way that I needed to, even though I was a hard worker. It was like my mind was more focused on the end of the day, so that I was able to get another drink or another smoke, and that pretty much took away a lot of joy in my life, because work is something that you're supposed to enjoy, and they say if you do something that you enjoy while you're working, you never it feels like as though you're not working. And it became so terrible that I felt as though there were times I would wake up in the morning and felt as though I was down in a hole, and I never wanted to come out, because I never wanted to face the problems that I had to endure on a daily basis.
The realities of life. So how did you get involved with the Hope Foundation? How did you get introduced to the program?
Well, it's right in the area of West Bay, and it's right on Bursty Hill Road where I was staying at that time. So there was many times I would cross there, and like I said, I just got to the point in my life where I said I need help. I need to be amongst people who are seeking the same type of life I'm seeking, and that is to get clean and sober. And by the way that the Hope Foundation is structured, the rules that they have would be able to help me to be more disciplined, such as hours that you have to be in, and attending meetings, and
Holding down a job.
yes, getting work, and getting a sponsor. That type of structure now is what I needed in order to help me discipline myself, that I was able to get on the right track in order to get clean and sober. And then also, when I do leave the Hope Foundation, that those things I would continue doing in order to stay clean and sober on a daily basis.
And how long have you been in the program now?
Well, I started in the program on the first part of May this year, and I'm very thankful to be there. The foundation is, like, as you know, it's what they call a war on drugs. Well, the addicts are part of that war, and the Hope Foundation is like a safe haven. It's a place where we're able to go in order to save our lives in this war.
Okay, Mr. Dilbert, you as the the newest member, at the foundation, tell us about your experiences there, and if you personally want to talk about your experiences before you went to the Hope Foundation, please feel free to do that as well. I just want to say again that it takes extreme courage to sit and to talk about, these things, addiction. There are many people who are in denial who in terms of addiction, and we're talking about even professional people, as well. So it takes extreme courage to sit and talk about it, and I want to applaud and commend.
It's part of the healing
the
process
both of you.
too.
Okay, yes.
It's part of the healing process,
Yes.
because if we keep it as a secret, to think that we can fight it and do it on our own and not become willing to talk about it, then our secrets is what kills us.
Yeah. Mr. Dilber?
Good morning, Mr. Connor, and I appreciate you having us here. I appreciate you having me here this morning. But first, I want to give my condolences for the family of Mr. Marvin, Captain Marvin. I had the pleasure of meeting him and being around him, and just his spirit, was a mentorship for me, Concerning the question of how I got there, I'm going to deal with that first. I first had to just surrender. I had to go through the court system to actually be approved to go in there. Well, I didn't have to, but the surrender had to come from me first, because I could have just said, well, okay, y'all just send me to Northwood to do whatever you want to do. But that surrender had to come from me first. And I remember the morning, and Brent stayed with me, and he stayed with me, and he said, man, just do something different this time, I'm not no young boy, so, I've been struggling. It's Keith spoke about it, it's not so much how I try to deal with it, but it's the cause of it, getting down to the root of the problem. And everybody struggles over and over. I know I have. The Hope Foundation supplies a community that helps me to get all the necessary tools. For me, I think addiction can come in all forms, not just to drugs and alcohol and coffee or whatever.
We see things like internet addiction now, pornography. Yep.
But there's a problem, and I do something to try to fix it. And if I don't know a better way, then automatically it goes to alcohol, and then from alcohol to whatever. But it fosters a community. It supplies me with the tools and the necessary community that helps me to get on my way. I'm not an uneducated person, However, if you don't know, you just don't know, And some of the simplest things get past the most educated people.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for that community and my surrender to it, because it has to be my surrender, because there's a lot of people out there, just like Keith said, that wanted to do something about the problem and just didn't know how to do it, just didn't know where to go to get it. And that's what the foundation has done for me, and I see that's what it's doing for other people like Keith,
Yeah, gentlemen, I'm going to throw this out to whomever wants to answer it. But we talk about the festive season. We see a lot of staff parties, various organizations having parties. We know that alcohol is consumed, probably at some parties other drugs are consumed as well. So this becomes a particularly challenging time, not only for those persons who don't feel that they're addicted, but for those who are going through the rehabilitative process as far as addiction is concerned. It would appear to me that this time of the year would be extremely challenging for you. How do you deal with that challenge?
From a management perspective, we have a program, like we said, that is completely structured. We have 6 meetings, 4 of them are 12-step. 2 of them are fairly Christian-based from a spiritual perspective. We're also implementing another meeting on Tuesdays. So there'll be actually 7 meetings. So there'll be a meeting there every day per week. What I've suggested to them as residents is, it is Christmas. and we all, as addicts and alcoholics, have a desire to celebrate. What we choose to do today, as far as choices, we do different things. It is a therapeutic community. So what these guys are going to do is get together. They're going to bake a turkey. They're going to make some stuffing. They're going to get some cranberry. They're going to have a little social amongst themselves to support each other. Not saying they won't go visit their families, etc. But they have a plan, you know. And then we have New Year's Eve, which is another night where people particularly like to go. I've spoken to you about this off air.
Yes, the barbecue.
You know, we have activities that we put together to support this therapeutic community, to keep them focused on recovery. There'll still be meetings going on, not because it's a holiday you don't have to attend meetings. The meetings are mandatory. You must attend. So, you know, then we have our family support unit. Visiting them is great. You know, that's why I call it a halfway house, because you want to go visit your family. You have a girlfriend maybe, you want to go see her. You have some kids, you need to go see your kids. You know, it helps you take your time to transition into the community slowly. And Keith was talking about it. It doesn't really matter how one gets there. Is that they're there. They're there. And they have a desire to change their attitudes, their behaviors, and their lifestyle. I mean, Wayne spoke a little bit about it. We won't go into too much details of how he got there, but if he chooses to tell you, and I hope that he does, how he got there, it doesn't matter how you get there, if you're there. I mean, you're talking about kicking, screaming, etc. But the program is designed to help these individuals continue to stay focused on their recovery. We have little socials, they'll have little socials, we'll have a social for the community. You know, they have a Christmas tree, Christmas lights like everybody else. That's what we do. And you know, we make the house as comfortable as we possibly can.
Okay. Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Art Connor. My guest in the studio with me this morning, we have, they're all from the Hope for Today Foundation. We have the operations manager, Mr. Brent Hydes. We also have Mr. Wayne Dilbert, who's a new resident of the Hope Foundation, and another resident of the Hope Foundation, Mr. Keith Orritt. We're talking about rehabilitation from addiction. It's an extremely sensitive and difficult topic to talk about. These gentlemen have chosen to come on air to talk about it. Not only are they on air, but they will be seen on television, government television as well. There are some of you, many of you out there who may have similar addictions, some who acknowledge it and others who don't acknowledge it and believe and feel that it is a situation that they have under control and that they can resolve it themselves. It's like the guy who says, you know, I drive best when I have a few drinks under my belt, you know. Completely wrong. But folks, please stay tuned. We'd like to hear from you. We'd like to, when we get further into some other topics, when we talk about the foundation and what the public can do to assist, we want you to call in. We hope you can have some offers that you can give to the Hope Foundation as well. We're going to take a commercial break now. Please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record, and happy holiday season to all of our listeners. We want to again thank you for allowing us into your homes, into your vehicles, and into your workplaces of work. Probably some of you have the benefit of being off, being on vacation during this period of time. Others had to probably have to work as well. School is out now also. So the kids are at home as well. But again, we want to thank you for allowing us and for being our loyal listeners as well. This morning, we're talking about the Hope for Today Foundation. We have the operations manager, Mr. Brent Hydes. We have two residents at the Hope Foundation, Mr. Wayne Dilbert and Mr. Keith Orritt, who are here with us. Hope Foundation started about 4 years ago. Brent, I want you to talk a little bit about the founding of the foundation itself, and tell us something about its governing body. Do we have board of directors and stuff like that? How
yes,
is
we
that?
do have
We want to give our listening audience proper picture of the Hope Foundation, so
exactly.
They can throw the kind of support that we would like them to throw behind you guys.
How did the Hope Foundation get started? I was in prison. I've been in prison, racism, back and forth. The door has been revolving for me. My last day in prison was 9 months. While in prison, I thought to myself there had to be another link in the chain of recovery that we didn't have here. At the same time, we used to have meetings down at Double O's. We used to have a meeting down there every Tuesday night. We got connected with a couple of the members, a couple of the people that wanted to be a part of something different. There was a gentleman by the name of Bud, Mr. Bud Levinsky. Great man, good man. So we all got together and we decided we're going to work at this. At the particular time, I was on the board of directors. So there's been some restructuring as the program went on. And the Hope Foundation has also had to restructure again a couple of years ago because of some stuff, and we won't get into that. But the Hope Foundation this time is really only like 2 years old, because we had to restructure the whole program. We had to move the house. We had to do all sorts of things. And we do have a board of directors that me as the manager has to get stuff approved by. Nothing happens unless it's run by the board. The board plays a major role in the structure of the program. They're big-hearted people that basically want to see Caymanians as a whole that are struggling with drug addiction do well, and that's what we're designed to do. We're designed to really be helpful in the community, and we continue to work tirelessly sometimes to see this through. What I can tell you, as a Caymanian, and I don't want to go too deep into this, as a Caymanian out of recovery, running a facility like this, it does not come easy for a person like myself. Sometimes it's a struggle, but I do have a lot of people that are supportive, particular people like Mr. J.C. Cahoon. I've known this gentleman for years. Then you talk about Marcus Cumber, who has been a friend of mine for years. Kind of grew up together except for his trips abroad. We've known each other quite a long time. And then you got Mr. Heber Arch and Garth Arch, and all of these people, they're supportive of what we're trying to accomplish. And we thank them for their continued support. Whenever called upon, they're there. And there's many other people in the community that embrace the cause and the mission, that what we're trying to accomplish. This is not easy, and we were talking about racism earlier. There has been people that come into the program that came in and wanted to use the facility for just a place for refuge. I didn't have no home, but you had to design the program around me, not me working the program. You had to set up a special program for me, So that's not what it's about. The program is designed, it's laid out. Here's the rules, here's the expectations. You abide by them thoroughly. I'm not saying that there's not a level of flexibility, because you got to remember the kind of people that we're working with. First of all, you got to remember the kind of people that we're working with, and you got to be loving, caring, show a level of empathy, compassion. All that things goes into assisting people in the journey of recovery.
Now, you spoke about the assistance from the community,
yes,
and we saw only this year where I would refer to it as a sister organization or a brother organization that had difficulties in terms of their location and the reaction that they received from the community. How receptive are neighbors where you're located? How receptive
I'll
are
let
they
these
and
guys tell you
cooperative?
that. I'm not even going to touch on let them
Sure,
tell you
go
that.
ahead.
Particularly Keith.
Keith?
Could you repeat the question?
I wanted to know how receptive are the people in the community where you're located? How receptive they are to the program and to you being there. We saw some challenges that were experienced by another organization when they were relocating or locating in a neighborhood. There was some opposition to it, probably more misunderstanding than anything else. It has been amicably resolved now, so it's been resolved to everyone's satisfaction. But Brent saying that you guys can talk more about how receptive the community has been to you.
Well, the community is not showing us anything negatively towards our goal in trying to get clean and sober. And the Hope Foundation, residents there are pretty much everyone is serious about our recovery. And so we are trying to avoid problems with anyone. So obeying the laws of the land is very important to the foundation. So I pretty much think that the residents that live around the foundation feel safe. And everyone that crosses there, that lives in the West Bay area or anywhere in the Cayman Islands, when they cross there, I know they're not seeing anything negative that will let them feel any way negative towards the foundation. So I think the community is really supporting us and in that way. But I'd just like to say that our higher power asks us to pay 10% of our wages.
Yeah, tithing.
If a person is going to put in $10 into the church, they can put in 5 and let the foundation have 5. And that doesn't just go for individuals. That goes for companies, major companies here in the Cayman Islands. And the Cayman Islands have made them what they are and who they are as individuals. And keeping people clean and sober is a great way to show your love for this country.
Okay. Mr. Dilbert, anything that you have to add in terms of your perception and the feeling that you get from the neighbors, the community?
I'm just going to give you a little story as to, I was there, I guess about 48 hours, was it, Brent? And we were doing the lawn. And before I know it, we had went all the way down the street, all the way to the end of the road, and we were cutting in front of the next houses. You know, that's just something that my grandmother taught me, that, you know, her being a Caymanian and me being a Caymanian, that's just ingrained in. And so the immediate neighbors, I feel, they embrace us. They look at that as, you know, when or the village helps each other, it heals itself. I mean, there's need for financial support. You know, everybody need money to live. But when I let that be the sole thing that drives me, but when somebody pass by and throw their hand up and wave, and you can see the sincerity of their heart, knowing that they know that this establishment is putting out people that can go back into the community and be a productive part of the community and help the next person that might fall from grace, let's say that. Because we all have our crosses to bear. I think the community is doing a very good job, but then there's always people that, boy, a leopard ain't, a leopard can't change his spots, and me learning this from my grandmother and my mother, it's like, boy, my Caymanian people, boy, they will begrudge me all the way to the grave about something I did way back then. But that's we as human beings, but with trust in what Keith was saying, my higher power, I do the work and I leave the results up to him. I had a problem, or still having a problem, with leaving the results up to him. Being in control, and that self-centeredness is the center point of addiction, period, whether it's addiction to coffee, alcohol, or whatever.
Now, Brent, if I may,
just to finish up on
sure,
on the question.
Go ahead.
Whenever, sorry, my apologies. Whenever we're having, all right, just to elaborate, there's a gentleman that's celebrating a year. His birthday is on Wednesday. We'll be celebrating his actual year of recovery on Sunday at a 6 o'clock meeting. The neighbors come on board. The neighbors make turtle soup. The neighbors make barbecue chicken. The neighbors make curry chicken. The neighbors. Most of the food, when we celebrate someone in recovery, is prepared by neighbors. Not only him celebrate, the whole little community celebrate. And that's what we do. We continue to come together to support these people, to show them that there is love, there is compassion, there is people that celebrate you in your victories. And that's what we do. And the same thing goes for anything, any social we may have. We got Pastor Gary, we got Matley Anglin, we got Corrine, we got Sheridan. The whole little community that surrounds that halfway house has embraced that facility with love and care. And they continue to show their support. They don't go around talking about because something may flare up that they throw in a towel. They come over and they say, "Hi, what's going on?"
Yeah. Because there are going to be challenges.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be smooth sailing,
Exactly.
for everyone.
And it goes back again to what we said earlier. Look at the kind of people we're working with.
Yeah.
We're looking at people that have spent most of their lives, starting from probably teenagers, going into Norwood prison. And that's been a revolving door for them. I'm going to do what I want regardless of the consequences until the pain gets deep enough. And Mr. Dilbert talked about surrender and having the desire to change.
We spoke about the rate of recidivism. And, there are those, and I'm probably in that group, that says that if you have 10 residents and you're able to change, to positively change one, that in itself is a success. And not wanting to hold you to it, but what is the sort of success rate that you've been having, bearing in mind now that you restructured, so you're only two years old.
Right.
And then I also want you to talk about the links. Now we talk about your intake, that sometimes the drug courts and other governmental agencies in terms of the intake. What I'm curious to know is what links do you have in terms of connecting the residents to the outside world, in terms of obtaining a job and the support from the outside world as well.
Okay.
Those two things.
All right. I think I can remember my figures correctly. This year, at 2014, as up to date, we had 24 residents at all. That's the women and the men. 24 residents have actually engaged in the program. Out of that 24, if I remember correctly, I think 15 up to date. has completed the program. You know, so that's I asked to leave.
And haven't returned.
And yeah, they have not returned. There's a couple of people that had left and wanted to come back. I think it was like 2 people. But there's been, I think it's 15 people that have actually transitioned from the program successfully. How do we identify the program as being successful? When someone completes the program, we consider that a success. Why do we consider that a success? We're hoping, our hope is once they leave the program that they'll never go back to their old ways and their old habits. But we look at, if we can keep someone in the program working on recovery for 6 months, that person is not out there stealing, robbing, ripping off people, conning, the whole works that goes along with drug addiction. That's 6 months that person has been clean and sober, never been nowhere, costing government this big whack of money. But we've had, that amount of people that have transitioned. Most of them have stayed clean. How do we get them jobs? We got Mr. Loxley Hillock, who's on our board of directors, that works at the Westin. What he tries to do is to, when someone completes the program, he tries to fit them in a job at the Westin.
Great.
We also got Pastor Mitch, who's a businessman that has gas stations, etc., and got businesses. He'll try to find him employment in one of his line of businesses. We got Mr. Donald Goddard, who's also into HR. She will continue to reach out to people to find work for these people. Some of these people have their own personal connections. We got a gentleman that came into the program. We want to thank God for people like Mr. Gillard McLaughlin. Yeah. Thank God for people like him, because he recognized what's happening in this island. He's a businessman. He also comes by the house. He has his business in construction. He would come by the house and say, "Brent, do you have a couple of guys I can take work with?" And he's always doing that. He has a guy that's been working with him pretty much from the day he came into recovery, from the day he came into the house.
And that's excellent. That's
what it's about.
Better than heading down on Eastern Avenue and picking up someone who's standing on the corner there waiting to
not only Gillard, but we got Mr. Shawnee Banks, who works in the tourist industry. Anytime these people have things available, these people don't go to the HR and government. They come to the halfway house to try to assist these people in work. Because unless we provide work, it doesn't make sense to get them clean and sober. I mean, nice to be clean and sober, but to get you clean and sober, not helping to assist these people with work, that they then can become productive, become self-sufficient. We spoken one time about, Sean and I were talking, even toiletries sometimes can be a difficult thing for a drug addict to find, because you rather get, and I don't go too deep into that, but he'll take that money and buy something else. So they need work in order to sustain their lifestyle.
Okay, we have one caller in line. Let's take that caller now. Caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.C.
Good morning, Mr. Ivan. How are you?
All right, Mr. Hodge, Mr. Horrid, and Mr. Dilbert.
Hey, morning, Mr.
Ivan here.
Good morning, Mr. Ivan.
Proud of you 3 gentlemen to turn on the life around. I keep telling the community that we should not shun you all. A lot of you, I was after high school for 14 years, so I know a lot of people, and some of them have made it good, and some of them fell through the cracks. But those that fell through the cracks should not be shunned. We should embrace them, talk to them, give them advice, take them out for a little meal, and everything else. That's the way to encourage people. I'm being accused many times of encouraging them in a drug problem, but I'm not encouraging a drug problem. But if every time when they see me, and if I turn my back to it, I can't get a chance to talk to her, give you that advice. So that's my feeling on it. And keep up the good works. And I think it's a good foundation. And I wish you all a Merry Christmas on a health and prosperous new year. Before I wind off, I want to remind the listening public that Christmas, the birth would not have meant anything if he hadn't died for our sins and risen from the dead. And I want to sing you a little song. For God so loved the world, his son he freely gave, to die on Calvary, from sin to set us free. Someday he's coming back. What glory that will be. Wonderful is love to me.
See, I can sing too.
And you all have a good one, okay?
Thank you. You have a blessed one. And Brent, they're going to be having a barbecue down there on New Year's Eve. And I keep promising to go. And this year, I'm going to, if I'm alive, and I hope I am, I'm going to make it a point to be there, Mr. Ivan.
Where the barbecue could be?
Brent?
The foundation.
The foundation, the residence.
Yes.
All right. And what time that is?
Brent, Mr. Ivan wants to know about
the food. The food will be starting to serve probably about 3 o'clock, and you know where it is. You know where it is. Since we got you on the line, Mr. Ivan, I want to thank you so much too for your support when we were putting on the walk for recovery. How your gift shop has stepped up and provided some vouchers for raffling during the walk. So thank you so much, and I hope you and your family are safe during the holidays. And again, we're hoping we'll see you down there for the New Year's Eve barbecue.
Okay then.
Okay,
right.
thank you very much. Mr. Susan, do we want to go to headline news now? Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Orrit Connor. I have with me in the studio this morning members of the Hope for Today Foundation. We have the operations manager, Mr. Brent Hides. We have Mr. Keith Orrit, who's a resident at the foundation. We also have Mr. Wayne Dilbert, who is the newest resident at the foundation. We're talking about a very difficult topic, not difficult for these gentlemen because they have been able to open up to you, our listening audience, to talk about their experiences, to share them with you. And like I said earlier, there are many people who are in denial, and hopefully those of you who are listening to this program this morning, that this will give you the courage and the impetus to seek help, seek assistance in whatever form of addiction you may have. And then remember, it is not only related to alcohol and drugs, but other issues as well. It is not just solely for the common person, the man on the street, as we like to say, but professionals, face the same challenge. Radio Cayman. And everyone else. So we're going to go to the headline news. We have about half an hour left, and we're going to continue to talk for that period of time. Please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly.
For information that matters, For the Record with Orrit Connor continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record, and thanks for listening in, allowing us into your homes, into your automobiles, and into your workplaces. This morning we're talking about the Hope for Today Foundation. We have in our studio with us the operations manager, Mr. Brent Hides, who is a recovered addict, and we also have Mr. Keith Orrit, who's a resident at the Hope for Today Foundation, and Mr. Wayne Dilbert, who's the newest resident for the Hope Foundation. Now, Brent, when you were talking, you said you spent your last 9 months when you were in prison, and just so we clarify for a listening audience, that wasn't 9 months ago. So if you can clarify that for them, because they may think, well, it's only 9 months that he's been out of prison and now he's involved in this.
True, so true. That's been almost 7.5 years ago.
Great, excellent.
I've been clean now for going on 7.5 years. But to elaborate a little more on your question that you had asked earlier, so we got together at Double O's house, and we decided there was another link in the chain of recovery. We established a board of directors, which I was part of the board, and we opened up this non-profit organization called the Hope for Today Foundation. The backbone of that, I think, stems from my input of elaborating on my experience in prison. Thank God to the other people that was a part of it. We were able to do it, and ever since that, there's been a halfway house program established in the Cayman Islands.
And let's talk about the benefits that the community, and you spoke about it earlier, in terms of you know, people like Mr. Gillard McLaughlin, when he needs someone to do, you know, days work and stuff like that, he'll come you know, to your facility and ask if you have anyone there and seek to employ them. What other benefits can the community derive from your organization? We heard Mr. Dilbert not only talk about the community itself, but he spoke about the individual. This was off air, of course, you know, about the individual, and you can either learn from someone else's mistakes, or you can learn from your own mistakes. And if you're able to learn from someone else's mistakes, then you don't end up having to go through that. So that's one benefit, you know, from it. But let's talk about others, and then we can come back to Mr. Dilbert on that point.
Some of the benefits that people can receive from the halfway house facility is these individuals need help. What I've learned, until I was able to get out of myself and to start being helpful to someone else, only then could I actually start to appreciate life. Because I was the most selfish, self-centered individual, and everything surrounded me, and if it didn't happen around me when I wanted it, then this world was just a place where I didn't feel like I wanted to be. So the benefits that individuals can get by giving these people employment, they can actually feel like they're being a part of the solution. If you're not a part of the solution, then you're a part of the problem. So my words of encouragement to anyone that can offer some type of employment is to come out to the halfway house, or they can call me at 928-9099, and we can work together to make the Cayman Islands a safer place. It does not make sense for the Hope Foundation to continue to focus on getting these individuals cleaned up if the community as a whole does not come together and find them some type of employment that they can sustain their recovery and become self-sufficient. My experience with most recovering addicts, they can become resentful, angry, frustrated, because what a lot of them seem to tell themselves, now that I'm clean, why won't someone give me a job? What most of them has forgotten is their history has caught up with them. So we were talking about it earlier, we have to trust the process, continue to stay sober, continue to go to meetings, continue to do the necessary work, continue to stay focused on the things you want to do, where you want to go. If you're looking at a job, you go here, you fill out an application here, you go here, you go here. So part of the work has to be yours. You know, these are the things that teaches an individual a level of responsibility. Because first of all, we got to remember, you don't owe me a thing. I don't owe you a thing. But what I do owe myself is a good life. And how do I get there? By doing the work. Staying clean, being productive, taking care of myself. So, you know, just a word of encouragement is we have to work together to make this island a safer place, because it's not getting any better. And just to put this out there, what we have to remember, that nobody woke up one morning, nobody gets out of bed one morning and say, guess what? Today, I'm going to become a flaming, burning alcoholic. I'm going to become a drug addict today. I'm going to set out to do it. That's not how it starts. That's not how it starts. It starts with pain, situations that needs to be addressed, and whatever may be going on in that individual life that he's finding very hard to deal with, then he self-medicate. I don't want to feel the pain, so I drink and I drug.
Yeah. Recently in the news, we've been seeing, and what some people felt was something that was going on long before it hit the news, was more evidence of drug usage in schools, where you're having, quantities of ganja being, found, in schools. How can the Hope Foundation assist with that? Do you do testimonials? Do you go to school? Are you allowed to go into schools to talk about?
You must have heard about this. You had to hear about this. You had to hear about it.
I can speak on that.
Sure, Mr. Ori. Go right ahead.
Just before Keith gets started, what we do is we work with the schools on an annual basis. We go into the schools whenever we're called upon. I don't want to particularly get
Are you
into
called
that.
upon enough?
Enough.
Yeah,
Enough?
yeah,
No,
yeah.
not enough. Not enough, but whenever there's a particular teacher that we work with, I don't want to call her name or anything, but I don't want to call the schools, but we go into all the government high schools. There's a teacher that sets up a program, like we were there for 2 weeks last month, and we try to do that 2 or 3 times a year. Yeah. We also work with UTAC. Are you familiar with UTAC? Michael Miles.
Oh, yes, UTAC, yeah.
Yes, we also play a major role in that program, where we would go to the schools and we'll kind of shut the school down for the day, almost as if it was a prison for the day. So the Hope Foundation plays a major role in carrying the message of the dangers of drugs and alcohol, and try to enlighten our students of the dangers of it. The ultimate decision has to be theirs, but what we can do is to share our experience, our strength, and our hope, and the consequences and where drugs and alcohol is taking us.
Mr. Ori?
Yes, well, the school children have a special place in my heart when it comes to drug addiction. Because I remember the struggles that I had while I was going to school. If I never had a smoke of weed before I went to school, my day just didn't go right. Because of my addiction, I wasn't even able to eat lunch or snack if I did go to school without smoking weed, and I tried to eat my lunch or my snack, I would feel like bringing the food right back up. So by knowing that would happen to me, and knowing the importance of having to eat while you're in school, my addiction had me that I was smoking weed practically every day before going to school, and that started to affect my studies, because I wasn't focusing on my studies the way that I needed to, and that pretty much started to affect all the activities that were going on in school also. Just a few weeks ago, I was given an opportunity to go to one of the public schools here in the Cayman Islands, and I was speaking in a classroom with some children, and I was sharing a part of my life there with them during my drug addiction. And there was a girl there who said that she had a friend that was smoking weed, and she said that she told her friend that she needed to stop smoking weed because it would destroy her future. So I told the girl to continue giving her friend that type of advice, and to continue showing her friend the right advice by her not starting to smoke weed. And I also encouraged her to, if she found time alone with her friend, to just have a word of prayer with her friend also, because I do believe my higher power has a great part when it comes to recovery. and there was a boy there who said that he had when he said he had a friend that called him and asked him to come over and check him and smoke some weed with him. And the boy mentioned that to me, and I told him that not to go smoke weed with his friend, because the way that he's enjoying his schoolwork now, after getting addicted to weed, that joy that he's feeling in school now, he won't be enjoying that same type of joy anymore.
Okay, that's excellent, great advice to them folks. We are going to go to our last commercial break before we end the show. I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Art Connor. My guests in the studio with me this morning are from the Hope for Today Foundation. We have Mr. Brent Hides, who is the operations manager, and we have two residents of the Hope for Today Foundation, Mr. Wayne Dilbert and Mr. Keith Orritt. Please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Pleasant good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Art Connor, and my guests in the studio are members from the Hope for Today Foundation. We have two calls on hold, so we're going to take those callers now. First caller, good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to you, Mr. O.C.
Good morning, sir, and compliments of the season to you as well.
Compliments of the season. And Mr. Hyde, Mr. Orritt, and Mr. Dilbert here.
Good morning.
Must commend you, Mr. Hyde, on your program. No accolades would be enough for you, what you're doing. And these gentlemen, fine gentlemen, getting on radio and telling of your experiences in your lives and so forth, really should be an inspiration to others there who are struggling out there, especially lots of young people, as we know, badly. And, it would be an inspiration for them to come forward and join them. Mr. Hyde's program. That's very successful. 15 out of 24. That's a pretty good ratio. So the other 9 will be, along the way somehow. I'd just like to offer condolences all to that wonderful gentleman, an icon in the tourism industry, the family, Mr. Marvin, Captain Marvin there, especially going out to Mr. Captain Eugene, very well acquainted with over many years, and Jackie too, and the others of the family. I'd just like to say, I remember what Mr. Ivan said is so important, and what you said about Mr. Gillard and Sean coming straight there to help find jobs, because nothing's so encouraging a person as when they're employed. It's very, very discouraging, whether you're a former drug addict or the most holiest of Christians. It's a very discouraging thing to be unemployed for a while. I'm sure every one of us have experienced that in some period in our life. And I remember, as he said, saying, don't shun them, try and get them back into society. When I was in Miami, living there, I was a co-manager with a big car wash. Many of the old folks might remember, right out there in Biscayne by the famous Cayman that everybody came to. Because they're staying at the old Lindsay Hopkins, most Caymanians, or the old Columbus that held downtown. And they'd pass and see me there. I remember there we watched several police department cars, up to 7, and the FBI also. And they would often bring me, the police themselves would bring me people from rehab centers and ask me, see if you can help them out. And at one point, sometimes we'd have as many as 40 on a Saturday and Sunday, so rushing through 600-700 cars a day, full service. And they had asked me, and I would take them on. I felt, good taking on these young people, trying to help them out. And some of them stayed on for a while and were more or less successful at rehabilitating themselves. But that job is very important. Gentlemen, keep up the good work and have an excellent day and a very happy and peaceful and blessed Christmas and happy and prosperous New Year to you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hudson. Thank you very much for that. Yes. We have another caller. Good morning and welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, gentlemen. Number one from the Brock.
Number one, good morning, and compliments of the season to you.
Same to all of you, everyone who read the Cayman, your guests, and everyone in the Cayman Island.
Thank you.
I had a question to ask those gentlemen, but it seemed as if the first caller asked one. What about people that went through the program if all was successful? But I got the answer just then.
Yeah, I think Mr. Hides did, talk about that, the success rate. What we could add to that, though, number one, is we could ask whether or not those persons who have been successful in the program, do they come back, give testimonials, and assist the foundation as well?
Well, what I can say, occasionally they would show up to a meeting at the residence. I do see them in the community attending other 12-step meetings. So I would assume that they're sober and they're working their recovery. When I look at that, though, I mean, whether they come back or don't come back, I'm just happy that they're working, recovering, being responsible. It's encouraging for me when I see them showing up at other 12-step meetings. You know, whether they come back to the house. It would be great if they do. Some of them do. Most of them are just kind of moved on with their own lives. They're busy with their jobs and they go to meetings that are more convenient. And that's what it's about. It's about being focused on recovery, going to 12-step meetings, and they do whatever is convenient for them at that particular time. Like we got people that left the program that are also driving a bus, which drives a bus quite often, late in the night. So he have to choose, or she has to choose whatever is convenient for them during their job schedule.
So it may not be your program, but
Yes,
it's
yes,
another one,
yes,
as long as they're involved.
And you know the nice thing about Cayman today? Anywhere you go in Cayman today, you can find a 12-step meeting, probably at any time.
Yes.
You can find a 12-step meeting to go to at any time.
That's great. That's great.
Gentlemen, I say keep up your good works and don't make, even if some drop out, don't make that discourage you. Keep going.
Thank you, number one. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much
number
for
one. Thanks,
that.
my friend.
All the best.
Okay, you
Thank
too.
you for your encouragement.
Yeah, that is great to know, because people keep knocking Cayman. I'm going to leave and go and live someplace else. Cayman is gone to the dogs now. There's still lots of positive things happening in the Cayman Islands, and you just mentioned one of them, Brent.
We live in a country that everybody wants a piece of. Everybody wants a piece of it. If we're not careful, we're going to end up with nothing to do.
Yep, that is so true. Now, let's talk about, because we're getting pretty close. Brent, you were worried about when I told you 2 hours that we're going to have the show run for 2 hours.
Yeah,
you said,
it was.
What are we going to talk about for 2 hours? I said, between the commercial time, the
Yeah,
calls that we get and stuff like that, you're going to find how quickly those 2 hours have gone.
Yeah, it did.
Will go,
It
and
did fly by
they
pretty
certainly
quickly.
have. But like any other organization in Cayman that is not fully funded by one means or the other, you're competing for funds out there like everyone else.
Correct.
And there are some people who say, well, not everybody can give or not. We're a rich, extremely rich community. You look at the
Selfish people here.
look at the 35,000 square foot homes that are being built. You look around you and see what's being built. We are extremely rich, and if you're prepared to spend that much on yourself, don't be so selfish and not spend some on helping that same community, because if that community disintegrates, then what you have invested in it goes as well. So it is best for you to contribute to the upkeep of it as opposed to the disintegration of the community as well. So there are still rich people, well-to-do people out there who can give, and you've mentioned some of them who are on your boards and stuff like that who assist. Do you get any financial assistance from government?
We are doing some work now with government that hopefully will get some funding approved. And what we do is a benefit to government. You know, we do as rehabilitate, work on prevention, or we build more prisons.
Yeah.
You know.
And it doesn't have to be in the form of direct financial assistance in terms of putting the cash in your hands. But look at government contracts. We talk about things like landscaping.
Exactly.
How many government buildings have been outsourced, in the landscaping outsourced to private industry. You know, you talk about your guys that are there that can work. Why not give some of that work to them if it is, organized properly through the various government agencies?
And one of the things I would like to see happen is kind of like what I mentioned to you off here earlier. If the fund was available, you know, we could provide a van or a truck with some lawning equipment, which would continue to be a resource for the residents, a financial resource for the residents, is to allow them that are not working to basically go out into the community with the truck, with the lawning equipment, with the weed whacker, with this, and start soliciting jobs in the community. When these residents that have taken up this and establish, whatever contracts they may have and sign up for the foundation, what they could do when they transition out, the other residents could then just follow it up. So it'll be a continuous money flow to assist themselves. These are things that we would like to see put in place, but unless there's funding, unless there's somebody willing enough to donate a van or a truck, donate the equipment, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we can do to assist these people and to start to make them feel whole and productive.
Yeah, and if we're going to be honest about it, it also means building that trust and confidence in the community that someone is going to give your organization that job because they're going to be around private homes and around individuals and stuff like that. So on the other hand, your organization would want to be able to establish and build that confidence and that trust as well.
We actually, to look at the whole thing, we probably could provide the work a hell of a lot cheaper.
Yeah, quite possibly as well. Well, folks, we're getting to about that time. I want to give you all an opportunity to have some final words. Brett, I know you want to, give special thanks to, some of your sponsors and, for the holiday season and stuff. But we're going to start briefly with Mr. Dilbert, then on to Mr. Orrit, and finally with Mr. Hydes. Mr. Dilbert.
I first want to thank you for having us. And,
it's been my pleasure.
Yeah. I think people in recovery are not looking for handouts. I don't think the foundation is looking for handouts, but just, how you see a little bird that done fell and they just pick it up and just give it a little nudge. We don't have to have a brand new truck. We don't have to have brand new equipment because we are industrious people, resourceful people. I needed to cut the yard the other day, and I didn't have a weed eater that worked. Keith told me, said, man, I don't think neither one of them worked. But it got cut because we put it together and we made one work. So that's what we're looking for. That's what I'm looking at, coming from either the private, just donations, that things that might not be as that doesn't run out of value as far as you putting it on your financial statements, and just that encouragement, the callers, just not to be shunned and looked at differently, that builds something inside, that builds hope, that builds encouragement, and I want to thank everybody that gives us that, and gives me that, and I thank God that Brent received his calling and is providing the service, because if that foundation wasn't there, I probably would be doing bad right now. Matter of fact, I might be dead. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Mr. Orrit?
Yes, just like to say to the listening audience out there that don't let shame or fear or pride stop you from seeking the help that you need in order to live a normal life without the use of drugs and alcohol, and to remember that the doors of the Hope for Today Foundation are always open, and they will always be there once they receive the donations that they need in order to keep the place open. So I'm just encouraging anyone out there who are able to financially to help the Hope for Today Foundation. It's not just for our generations, but it's for generations to come. And addiction is not prejudice. You can be rich or poor. Doesn't matter what color you are. Whitney Houston struggled with it. She was a great inspiration for me when she was in rehab. It was a great encouragement for me to seek the same type of help that she did. And I was sad to know that she passed away because of a relapse. So we all have to make that right choice in seeking the help that we need, and we're able to have structures in place in our lives that we're able to continue living clean and sober lives and live one day at a time, filled with joy and peace and hope. Thank you.
Finally, Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, morning again, the listening audience. First of all, I do not want to leave the year without remembering a good friend of mine, Mr. Captain Marvin E. Banks. I've spent many days in the North Sound. Mr. E. Banks, my Uncle Solomon, Crosby, Frank, all of those wonderful men are such pioneers to this community. Mr. Marvin he really should be sent off with a big bang.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He spent his whole life tirelessly helped with building the tourism industry. The part that he played in that for all his life. He's played a major role. His personality is, wow. He's an awesome gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
He's been awesome from day one, from the first day I knew him. From me to the family, my deepest sympathies from me and my family. You know who we all are, so kind of bringing tears, pain in my heart when I talk about Captain Marvin. He was a good friend of mine. I knew him really well. I knew his family. I know his family really well. But let's go back to the original topic at hand, the Hope for Today Foundation. The Hope Foundation cannot exist, will not exist, unless there's community support. It takes all of us as a community to rebuild this nation. This island is in a desperate need for help. I say help because our young kids, the older people that have got caught up and have been struggling with drug addiction and alcohol and all this stuff for many years, that disease has been passed on to generations. So we have many people in this community that struggle with the disease of addiction. Regardless of the type of addiction, it's a problem. It's not only a problem for adults. Our school system is suffering because of drugs. Unless we continue to focus on rehabilitation and prevention, we're going to find ourselves one day that we're not going to be able to walk down the road feeling safe. It'll kind of be like the drug man with a pocket full of dope, looking behind him, wondering what car is that coming? Is that the police coming? And we just have to be watching over our shoulders at all times. And this country will be no different than a lot of the other places in the West Indies that crime has pretty much taken over, where people feel unsafe. We have a wonderful tourist industry here that we need to protect. And it takes all of us. And we need to continue to be helpful. What I found was helping another human being is probably the most rewarding and the best feeling I can ever have.
Yep.
So I continue to reach out to the community to support the cause, support the mission. We at the Hope Foundation continues to work a successful recovery, 12-step based recovery program. And we need your support, and I can be contacted at 928-9099. That's Brent Hydes, 928-9099. Or you can email Cayman Hope Foundation at live.com. Or you can email me at brenthydes60@yahoo.com.
Thank you very much.
Most of all, we want to thank Radio Cayman for allowing us this privilege. Yeah.
Sure, more than happy to.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Brent. Folks, I want to remind you that you've been listening to For the Record. I've been your host, Art Connor, and my guest in the studio with me this morning. They have been members from the Hope for Today Foundation. We had Mr. Brent Hydes, who's the operations manager, and we had two residents of the Hope Foundation, Mr. Keith Orritt and Mr. Wayne Dilbert. I also want to remind you that For the Record was brought to you by Seagrape Secretarial Services. Seagrape Secretarial Services are located at Unit Number 2, Grand Plaza, Howard Street, Georgetown. They provide quality, professional, and affordable service, and that service is guaranteed. At Seagrape Secretarial Services, there is no job too small for them to do, so please get in contact with Seagrape Secretarial Services. I want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters keepers, that there is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and we ask you to hold out a helping hand to them. I want to specifically refer to an article in the Caymanian Compass that talks about donations sought for the Evans family holiday. And we see where Dr. Linda McPhail will be doing something at her home. We see where Ms. Lisa Prendergast with the Ministry of Education has pointed out that the family needs donations, and we have a list of some of those donations. They need a dryer, they need television, they need 8 pillows, they need a set of stainless steel pots, set of cutlery, set of crockery, 2 very small second-hand dressers with mirrors. They need towels, twin sheets, 6 sets, queen sheets, 2 sets. They need food, clothing, and food gift certificates could be given as well. They need a queen-size bed frame, and they need 5 twin bed frames as well. What would be interesting here, those persons who are interested in making a donation can call Linda McPhail at 917-9672. And it is what needs to be done here is that people need to know what has already been donated and what still needs to be donated, so that you don't end up with more things than you need, because they could also be directed to some other needed family as well. So we would hope that they set up a system whereby once their goal has been achieved, that donors know that, so that they can direct their efforts to some other needy individual or needy charity as well. So we are our brothers and our sisters keepers. Hold out a helping hand to them. And in this festive season, again, I implore you to consider not those who want, but those who need. And again, we leave you with the words of Mr. Bill Withers. Susan has corrected me. I say Billy Withers, but Mr. Bill Withers, his song, Lean on Me, which I find so appropriate. Folks, have a great day. Stay safe during the holiday season, and be good, be nice, to everyone. Be kind to everyone. And join us again on Wednesday when we will have the independent members, and that will be the last show before the Christmas holidays, and then we will return on the following Monday. We don't take a break here. Yeah, we did that already, Susan. We did them already. So folks, please stay tuned. But Susan, we're going to do it again. We're going to give them an extra plug. I want to remind you again that For the Record was brought to you by Seagrape Secretarial Services. Seagrape Secretarial Services are located at Unit Number 2 Grand Plaza on Howard Street, Georgetown. Seagrape Secretarial Services provide quality, professional, and affordable services, and those services are guaranteed. And at Seagrape Secretarial Services, there is no job too small. So you got a double dose of Seagrape Secretarial Services this morning. Again, it was a great pleasure talking with you, those folks from the Hope Foundation, and a great pleasure talking to our guests as well. We hope that you derived a lot of benefit from our show this morning, that you obtain a greater understanding of what the Hope Foundation is all about, and the difficulties that those persons with addiction, the difficult challenges that they face. Again, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. The record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
The record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.